Hi there, in this video I want to talk about, sorry I just shook the thing. I want to talk about, is it true that human beings are frugivores, or is it a myth? I've written about this in my book, Raw Vegan Myths Debunked, Part 2. That's available now as part of the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. You can check on the link below this video to see if that might be for you. It ends at the end of this week, so please go and check that out and purchase that if you think that would be right for you. There's a lot of great information in it, and you get my book as part of it. So you might have seen, talking about human being frugivores, you might have seen this chart or something like it before. Comparative anatomy chart. Charts like this actually go back, I think, at least 100 years, maybe 120, to some of the early sort of natural hygiene and raw food books. There was a guy, I think it was maybe Schleckisen. He might have been a German guy, I think, or maybe American, but he came up with a chart of this nature. What this chart shows, it might not be, let me try and see if I can make this bigger. I can zoom in a bit more. Yeah, okay. What this chart shows, as you can see, carnivore, omnivore, herbivore, frugivore, and human. And the carnivore we see, for example, if we can go down a bit, it's not perfectly going down the right amount for me here. This is going to go way too fast. Okay, so the carnivore physiologically, his food is meat, 4 paws, claws, walks on 4 paws, mouth open is large, great sharp fangs, short and pointed incisors, blah, blah, blah. Strong hydrochloric acid in the stomach, fangs, blade-shaped molars, the way that it chews, its salivary glands, on and on and on, looks at the anatomy of a carnivore. Then it looks comparatively at omnivores, a lot of the same things. Then herbivores, a lot of the same things. And if we compare all those to humans, we just don't see humans fitting in that category. But look at the frugivore, look even at the teeth. Look at the way dental pattern and the tongue, and the way the jaw moves. But we look at everything here, canines, flattened incisors, flattened molars, upper jaw sits, the blah, blah, no shear, big salivary glands, alkaline saliva, alkaline urine, does not secrete uricase, weak hydrochloric acid, requires fiber to stimulate peristalsis, small amount of cholesterol, blah, blah. So all this stuff is the same for humans and the frugivorous apes. So we share that chart and we suggest, well, humans are frugivores, that's it. Is that enough? Is it true? Well, we definitely have some of our own, arguments in the raw vegan world, in the fruitarian world. One of the things we often rely upon as well is there's a statement from a guy called Linnaeus, and Linnaeus was a polymath genius scientist from the past, and he basically came up with the science of taxonomy, where you would compare and categorize different animals into different classifications based on their anatomy being similar, and that would indicate what food they should eat. And apparently he said about man's structure, although I don't know the source of this, I've only seen secondhand sources of this, but apparently he said man's structure, internal and external, compared with that of the other animals, shows that fruit and succulent vegetables are his natural foods. And we say that, we've seen that, we've probably all shared that quote. Where does it come from? I don't know exactly. If you know, let us know. I think we need to go and try and find that quote. It's on a few websites, but where is it, in a book or whatever? But what's the argument, for example, for humans being omnivores? Because the typical thing is that human beings are omnivores. Well, what's the argument for that? Well, we've got about 8 billion people on the planet, and most of them are eating an omnivorous style diet. They, in theory at least, or in practice at least, they are omnivorous. They will eat plants and they will eat animal products, and they will eat a variety of plants and a variety of animal products. And if you go around the world, you see almost every type of plant, almost every type of animal in some way is eaten by some type of people. So that would suggest strongly for the idea that human beings are omnivores. Look up an encyclopedia, a dictionary, it'll say human beings are omnivores. Okay, but there's different theories on that, because although in practice people are omnivores, the only way that we are actually omnivores is because of cooking and processing. So some people suggest that actually what human beings are is not really omnivores, but we're cooked food eaters. You know, we're a different classification altogether, as if we evolved on cooked food. And they say, well, look at our jaw smaller, our colon or whatever smaller, we're cooked food eaters. And so that's the position of some people. And a lot of that evidence would make it seem, well, that's quite obvious, human beings are omnivores. Most people eat, you know, a variety of things. You can also suggest that the apes are omnivorous. You can say, well, they eat some animal products too. So maybe I might say that. So what's the evidence against humans as omnivores? Well, it really suggests omnivorous behavior, like that we're quite open to eat like anything, that we have this. And in practice, people are eating kind of anything, but not really. People eat very limited food sources. They eat in line with their culture. They eat in line with what they were grew up with, really. And that doesn't suggest omnivorism. It doesn't suggest that they lack discrimination. They're still discriminative about their food. Whereas the feeling of omnivore is like they eat anything. Is that how children eat? You know, before their parents encourage them, do they just eat anything? Actually, it seems like children really get forced to eat, in particular, is from what I've seen, children are quite open to eating fruit. But the other foods, they're kind of forced to eat them until they comply. And it's a bit strange to me to see that, but that's how these things work. And later in life, when we experience foods outside of that early programming, people have discussed anxiety, worry about foods that are outside of what they've been trained to eat as a youngster. Do we have these omnivorous instincts? You know, we're surrounded by potential foods. There's slugs and snails and all sorts of insects. Do we rush towards eating those? No, we don't. We see many things, we see them with disgust, even though they could be a good source of calories or whatever, if you like. But we don't seem to have that omnivorous side of wanting to eat anything. Also, we tend to process, clean, cook all our foods. We change animal products to looking more like plants or fruits and vegetables, adding color to them. We add the flavors of fruits and vegetables to them. It doesn't make a good argument that we're omnivores that can eat anything. We don't really have good taste buds for tasting many different types of food. We don't have taste buds for protein and fat. So it kind of goes against that, but also some of the anatomy stuff. What about our ability to acquire a broad range of food? Omnivores naturally have the ability to go and hunt and chase for animals and things like that and eat them raw. We don't really have great natural ability to do that. We're not great hunters. We usually use weapons and things like that to hunt. If we look at our digestion, our anatomy doesn't really suggest omnivorous. And also the omnivorous or foods outside of our natural diet seem to create disease. So if things like animal products are creating disease on us, and even some of the plant foods are capable of creating some disease on us, it doesn't really give good evidence for us being omnivores. So what about the evidence for us as frugivores? Well, the evidence for that seems to be abundant. Firstly, we are anthropoid primates. That's where we're classified, along with chimpanzees, bonobos, orangutans, gorillas. And these are all frugivorous. They're seen as a frugivorous or herbivorous at the very least. They all eat the bulk of their diet as fruits and vegetables. Now, it's true that some of them have some meat, but it's very little part of their diet. The closest relative to us, the bonobos, is almost an exclusive frugivore. The African Wildlife Foundation suggests they love to feast on fruit, with some estimates suggesting at least 90% of their diet coming from fruit. There's also the work of Dr. Alan Walker, who is a researcher who studied dental wear on teeth to be able to look back and see what kind of diet animals had. And there's an article in the New York Times about his work that suggested in the 70s, preliminary studies of fossil teeth have led an anthropologist to the startling suggestion that early human ancestors were not predominantly meat eaters or even eaters of seeds, shoots, leaves, or grasses, nor were they omnivorous. Instead, they appear to have subsisted chiefly on a diet of fruit. We can also look at the length of the human gut. We can identify the level of frugivorism in a primate by looking at the size and ratio of the gut. And the human gut fits perfectly with the category of frugivore. But look at things like your eyesight. Color vision comes along with being able to track and see fruit and assess its ripeness. What about our sense of taste? We actually lack taste buds to taste protein, fat, or starch. We strongly taste sweet, and indeed sweet is the taste most children instinctively go towards. We all taste sour and acid flavors, which are also connected with assessing fruit ripeness and quality. Our taste for salt could be said to be a measure of the quality of flavor brought to the fruit by the mineral content of sodium and potassium, or perhaps a desire to eat vegetation. We share one unusual adaptation along with our ape cousins, which is we lack the ability to create vitamin C. It puts us at risk of vitamin C deficiency. However, our diet is meant to be so abundant in vitamin C from fruit that it's not really something we need to worry about. What about our sense of beauty and wonder about fruit? It's the most beautiful, attractive food, and many things are created to look like fruits. They're a sign of beauty, but they're a sign of life and health. They're often the foods that are used in advertising campaigns talking about health. We have grasping hands, commonly seen as being adapted for using tools, but really they're in all the frugivorous primates. They're there for opening up fruit. And that's even mimicked in some human cultural practices. We like to put things in boxes and packages, presents, so that people have to open them up. We have all these aspects of our psychology that seem to go along with being a frugivore. Look at our memory system. A classic way of developing, of being able to memorize things is not to list them, but to actually visualize a journey, a geographic journey, and to go along that journey and connect images of that list that you want to remember to different places in the journey. Now, why does that work as a memory technique? It's because our memory, we have a really strong memory for being able to memorize geographic locations and be able to memorize routes and be able to remember where things are so we can find our way to different places. We don't smell our food and run after it. We know that our food is at a particular location, and then we go and find that location. So you probably have memorized the location of many supermarkets, restaurants, fast food places in your brain. Probably have all this memorized. You could probably go to the town you grew up in, and you would still know all the streets. You probably go to the school that you went to, and you could walk your way around the school and know exactly your way around. You could probably go back to an old workplace, your old houses, and do the same thing. You have actually a fantastic memory for location and for creating a mental map of areas. And this would make sense as a frugivore, having to remember the location of fruit trees, which don't run away, they stay in the same place. And also we have a kind of a concept of time and timing, which goes along with fruit only being available at certain times of the year. We would have to learn to go and revisit those trees at certain times. So I also think that walking, we see walking as, well, that's something, something to do with coming out of the trees and walking in the plains and things. But really walking is a very fast way of getting to the next fruit tree. Potentially that allowed us to get there first before other animals, so that we get to the tree and collect the fruit prior to other animals being able to do that. We also love trees. We have a good connection with trees. Our brain runs exclusively on glucose, and obviously fruit's a fantastic source of that. And looking at some of our ancient culture, the Bible, for example, has the whole story about Adam and Eve living on fruit, and God said that humans should live on fruit and lived in a garden of fruit trees. And the forbidden fruit, and there's other mythical stories from other traditions and religions that talk about a time when people ate only fruit. So there seems to be so many things in our nature, in our body, that point us towards being frugivores, but we maybe can't say it 100% certain. Well, we can't say that the world of science is saying that. Maybe we can believe that. Maybe we think the research is strong enough, the information is strong enough, but maybe we can't exactly say it. It depends. It's your own kind of choice there, I would say. But thank you for watching. If you want to read more about that and some of the other topics, Raw Vegan Myths Debunked 2, it's in the Ultimate Raw Vegan Bundle. That's available right now. You can click on the link below this video to find out more about that. Thank you very much for watching.